Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Dribbz Talks podcast. We're bringing it to you real, raw and uncut. A safe place where we can talk about anything and everything. So like, share and subscribe. But most importantly, keep it locked. Everything's gonna be just fine. Everything's gonna be okay. Just take one step at a time. That's what the leaflets say.
This is the Undercover Hippie, and you're listening to the Dribbz Talks podcast on YouTube and Spotify.
Yes, people, welcome back to another episode of Dribbz Talks, the podcast where we look at some of society's most inspirational people, bring them into the hot seat to talk of their journey through life in order to inspire and help other listeners. And with that, I bring you a man that I've had the pleasure of calling a friend for many, many years now. Yeah. He's been a DJ for so many years and has served this time in raving history. He suffers with a lifelong health condition, and I really hope that his story resonates with a few of my listeners. So buckle up, it's Payney in the hot seat. How are you today, bro?
Mate, I am I'm excited.
Yeah,
I really am. I've been looking forward to this for a long time, and I'm going to start off with a little fact for you.
What's that fact?
In all the years that I've had a microphone in front of me, I have never been interviewed by anybody.
Really?
No. Never done this before. Never appeared on any other podcast, and nobody's ever asked me to, come and tell them my life, life story, health, and stuff like that.
Well, I feel you're a very interesting man, and it's worth doing, mate. And I'm glad that I can pop your cherry, mate. I'm glad I could be your first. You never forget your first, Payney, so I'm hoping you never forget me. So, for the benefit of my listeners, then, Payney, who may never have heard of you, just give them a brief introduction of who you are and where you're originally from.
Right, my name is Steve. I am from Tamworth in Staffordshire. Started off life in Chelmsley Wood for about 6 months. And then my mum and dad were offered a council house in Tamworth, which was built as an overspill town for Birmingham, because we have a B postcode, just like Birmingham. And yeah, lived in Tamworth all my life. I've travelled up and down the UK as a DJ, and I have been blessed to have hosted some of the most amazing parties as a mobile DJ stroke entertainer, music person. I have played anything from sort of Charleston, sort of 40s Charleston type music, all the way up to 200 BPM gabba. Mm-hmm. I have had to take a little bit of a mental health break over the last 12 months, which I will go into later. But yeah, I've had an interesting life. I'm in the twilight of my career now. And yeah, I feel this is sort of step one of my twilight years, being interviewed and sitting down and talking about what I've done in life.
Absolutely. I think this is like, it's massively important to kind of get your story out there, in my opinion, because like I said to you on that voice note this morning, I know it sounds a little bit morbid, but like, none of us are invincible, bro. No. We never know what the future holds. However, these podcasts are invincible, Yes. These podcasts are going to be around long way after we're gone and dusted. Yeah. And how nice would it be for someone to stumble upon this and listen to more than just yourself, listen to the man behind the alias. Do you know what I mean? Now, I am going to call you Payney all the way through,
That's
because
fine.
that's all I've ever known you as.
That's fine.
You know, saying your original name there, I'm like, oh shit, I didn't know that. But lots of people call me Dribbz, and they would never even dream that my name's Adam, and I like to be called Ad as a preference. But so many people call me Dribbz, but I can assure you that is not on my birth certificate. I would have quite liked it to have been. As people know, I do like to sing the Dribbz from the rooftops, and as I said, I'd have it tattooed on my head if I had half the chance. But it's all about self-promotion.
Yeah,
mate,
you're a one-man band.
I really am. I really am. And the way I see it is, if I fail, I've only got myself to blame.
Exactly, yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
It's exactly the sort of outlook I used to have when I used to do people's wedding discos. You know, if I put on a crap night, I've only got myself to blame.
Exactly.
You know, if I, you know, and I have had one party, unfortunately, end in floods of tears.
Well, I'm sure we'll get into that. So I think mine and your paths crossed. I was very much aware of, I'm going to touch into it a little later, but this is mainly the introduction. But, you know, I'm very much aware that you was behind Global D&B.
Yes, I was.
So, you know, we were, you know, as a MC coming up in the scene, because I've been involved in this for like over 20 years now. So as an MC coming up in the scene, Global D&B was very much a brand that I was very much aware of. I don't think I had the opportunity of performing on Global D&B, but I was very, very much aware of it, and knew people that, you know, did regularly perform on Global.
Well, Global D&B in its prime was reaching 160 countries a month on the listener front, and our signal went to such weird places. You know, you'd never expect somebody from Iran to tune in, or, you know, that they had connections in Iraq, Iran.
It's crazy, isn't it?
It's crazy.
I know. I think this, like, with because on, you know, when I release my hip hop tracks to Spotify, I've got an app called Spotify for Artists. And it's basically analytics. So it's you know, it's showing what countries your tracks are being listened to, how long they're being listened to, age ranges, genders, so much different stuff. It breaks it down, so it gives you an overall idea. And, like, you know what, I'm finding people from like Egypt that are listening to Dribbz, and like Saudi Arabia, and I'm like, how has my man in Egypt stumbled upon Dribbz and is now, like, not only listening to the one track but now listening to the whole album? It blows my mind, bro. But this is technology for you, isn't it?
Yeah, it's 21st century technology.
Exactly.
It's amazing what you can do.
Exactly that, bro. So, like with all my guests, I like to take things way back to the start, because after all, the early days of your life can be some of the most important when we think of development and understanding morals that you potentially grow up to carry as well. Now, did you come from a loving home, and what was your family setup?
My mum and dad are amazing. My mum and dad, they both worked incredibly hard to provide the best they could for me and my brother. My dad used to work long hours driving a flatbed truck around the country for a company called Michelle Express, and he delivered anything from construction bolts to ceilings for council house porches, and stuff like that. Anything that you could tie down on the back of a 3.5 ton flatbed truck, he delivered it. And I can always remember going to places like Runcorn, 86 miles and 3/10. My dad, when he listens to this, he'll know exactly what I mean by that. That'll make him laugh. We went up as far as Glasgow with him once, which was a long drive. You don't realise how long it is. You know, when you get to the top of the M6, that's like only 2/3 of the way there. He drove a long time. My mum, she didn't work at first when we were small, but you know, when we was sort of late primary school, she got a job at KP in Ashbury. I
want to say KP Nuts, right?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, KP
okay.
Nuts, and she used to come home.
I bet you had bags of them as a kid.
Oh, mate. Yeah, that's just made me think of something. But yeah, she used to come home with cut price everything, because there'd be the slightest error in the packaging, or they were slightly underweight or overweight, and she'd come home with these huge bags. Oh, sorry. She'd come home with these huge bags of crisps, and, you know, the cheap 10p crisps, and, you know, bags of nuts and broken biscuits.
Oh, broken biscuits, mate. That's a thing of the past, man.
Yeah.
Now and again in home bargains, you'll see like a box of them, but that used to be an actual thing back in the day. Do you know what I mean? Like there used to be men on or women on market stores that would sell broken biscuits.
Yeah.
And it used to be a real treat when my mum would bring them home. Do you know what I mean? And sometimes it would be like, you'd open them and you'd be like, A-game biscuits, this is cool. And other times they'd be like, oh, it's shitey custard creams.
oh, yeah.
Well, you're a big fan of custard creams there,
Oh,
bro.
yeah.
Oh, are you? See, I'm a bourbon man, mate.
Oh, I'm a bourbon man myself.
Yeah.
And you know...
I didn't get this dad bod by not having appreciation for bourbon, bourbons, mate. Yeah. Custard creams they're a bit NPC in my opinion. They're a bit average, a bit plain, but yeah man, bourbon biscuits and the other one, cow biscuits, but not only cow biscuits, Asda now do cow biscuits with a layer of chocolate on the back. Boom! I'm all about them, mate. Anyway, that's a separate podcast for Biscuit Appreciation Society.
Yeah.
Anyway, was there any particular sports or activities that you enjoyed doing as a youth?
No.
Okay.
Because, well, I used to take part in like the school sports day at primary school, but very early in my age, 1992. Now, this is going to sound really weird, this story, but I smashed my knees up really bad in 1992. I was part of the Sea Cadets then, you know, loving everything loving every little minute of it. And this one point we got a chance to go to a lake in Sutton Coldfield to do some canoeing. And we'd done sort of like, if you tip over in the canoe, this is how you get out at the local swimming baths. And when I got in the canoe, it didn't sit right. My feet were squished really badly and it was uncomfortable. And the officer that was with us at the time, me and him did not get on. Mm-hmm. We did not get on. We clashed over everything. And I paddled up to him and I says, look, officer, look, something's not right. My feet are crushed. And he just told me to go away. Go away and stop bothering me, were his exact words.
It's very kind of him.
20 minutes later, we were given a little task: throw the oar in front of you, paddle with your hands, and go and fetch the oar. Okay, fair enough. So the third time I did that, the paddle sort of went off to the side. So like a muppet, I leant over in the canoe. Obviously in the canoe, you're quite top heavy, right? And over I went. And obviously, dark, murky water, you've got to get out of this canoe. You know, you've got a life jacket on, but you've got to get out of the canoe. And I couldn't get out. I tried leaning forwards, pushing away, couldn't get out. Leaning backwards, couldn't get out. But eventually, I got turned back over by one of the girls that was part of it. And it frightened the crap out of me.
Of course it was, yeah.
Oh my God, it was horrible. And they pulled me to the side of the riverbank, and there was like a concrete sort of ramp where boats used to, sorry, I'm talk with my hands.
Knocking this mic on a regular.
Yeah,
I'm going to tap your fingers in a minute, Payney.
Yeah, I talk with my hands a little bit. But,
Go on, bro.
We got to this sort of concrete siding. My kneecaps were stuck on a plastic sort of ridge inside where you'd use it to put your waterproofs on, right? And they pulled me out of that and they couldn't move, but they sort of, the force of it pushed my kneecaps so far up and then so far back down, right? They eventually got me out and I couldn't stand up. I collapsed because I just couldn't put any weight in my legs. So they ended up picking me up. And then they dropped me. And I fell kneecap first onto this concrete siding. And ambulance being called, I'd fractured the bone in just below me left knee, completely made a mess of the cartilage in my right knee, which I still suffer with today. I've actually got a knee bandage on today because the cartilage feels like it's coming out of my knee. And that was the start of me slowly losing my mobility.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
I ended up having 2 or 3 operations to try and correct the muscles that were just... There was just no strength in them. They were just like broken elastic bands. And it messed me up. It really did. And that cost me 4 or 5 years of high school, being on crutches all the time because I just couldn't walk properly. Yeah. And back in them days, the PE teachers, they just didn't care. No. You know, they were the type of PE teachers that if you forgot your kit, you were doing it in your underpants.
Yeah, yeah. And it was, it's mad, isn't it? Like, back in when I was in junior school, I know there's a bit of a difference in age. I mean, I'm 38 next week. Right. So back when I was in junior school, you know, if you forgot your PE kit, it was vest and pants. They couldn't get away with that now, bro.
No,
but, you know what I mean?
That
was normal back then, man.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Do you know what I mean? That's crazy. Yeah. So, regards to the area that you grew up in then, because I know you mentioned about, you know what, it's funny you should say that because I'm a Blue Nose, I'm a Birmingham City fan, as you might have guessed. Most of my family are from Chelmsley Wood.
Right, okay.
Which is crazy. My auntie still lives there now. But they lived and moved there when Chelmsley Wood was a very posh area. Yeah. I don't think you put them in the same sentence nowadays.
Well, yeah, there's nice areas of Birmingham and there's no-go areas.
Of course.
That now,
so do you think that your area that you particularly grew up in, did it teach you kind of real-life lessons? Was you fairly streetwise?
Yeah, I mean, you had to be because you had 2 opposing armies. You had the Glasgow Barmy Army, which they were known as 721. You used to see it scrawled on the underpasses and all stuff like that. And sort of like the next estate down Belgrave, they was known as the Belgrave Barmy Army. And you had to know who was, if you, like, for example, if I had to go to the shop for my mum, you would be better off knowing, you know, if you see one of them, you know who they are, you know what they do, you know. And one of them, one day, because I dissed him on his patch, actually got a pellet gun rifle and shot me with it in the back of me left knee. Shot me with a pellet rifle because apparently I disrespected him in front of his house.
Just what you need.
How? I don't know.
Just what you need after all the stuff you've had as a kid with your knees as well.
Yeah.
And then you go and get shot with a pellet rifle.
You get shot with a pellet rifle.
Happy days.
The stinging pain.
Oh, I bet, mate.
And of course that caused further mobility issues. And the area that I do. Yeah, I mean, bless, my mum and dad's house was never broken into. There was never any trouble outside our house. I lived opposite a guy called Fluff. His real name Andrew. He was the best man at my wedding, and he was a great big area arse rocker. And you just didn't mess about in front of my mum and dad's house because, you know, my dad would be out there. But Dad was a former strongman.
So there was that level of respect.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's important.
You didn't mess about with... I can remember one day, some lads that lived sort of halfway up the street, he burnt me with a lighter. And it really hurt. So I went home and I said, oh, look, you know, I'm under the tap trying to...
One of them smiley faces burns with the old clippers, like.
Yeah, that's it, yeah.
I remember them, yeah.
And my dad seen what happened. He says, where is he? Flats up the road. And he went up there, kicked the front door off, got hold of the bloke and slapped him about on his lawn for touching his son.
Like it. Well, it's standard, isn't it?
Yeah, and I can't recall police being involved after it. But my dad did slap him up hard, and that's the only time I've ever seen my dad violent.
I just want to say, big up to the aeroplane that's cruising over the studio.
Yeah,
tonight.
I did just hear that.
And this is why it's real, live, and uncut. You know what I mean? That you can hear birds chirping. It's a lovely, nice day today.
Yeah, it is. It's lovely.
You know, and the fact that we've come together after so many years of talking on the phone to do this, and it's very natural. It's not like it's awkward. I never thought it'd be awkward in a million years, but you know what I mean. It's nice, bro. It's nice.
I don't do awkward. I don't do awkward. I'm your best friend until you upset me.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it takes a lot.
Yeah, you cross me, you know about it.
Yeah.
This is what I'm like. You know, I don't take. Some people might have an opinion about someone. I don't listen to that until they've done something to harm me or my family.
Yeah,
you do
I'm
that.
Exactly
you know
the
about
same,
it.
man.
You know what I mean? Otherwise, I'm the nicest guy going.
Yeah.
Anyway, was there any particular person that you looked up to as a role model growing up? You mentioned about your dad and kind of the influences he had.
My dad, he was... he used to do a lot of weightlifting. My dad was a massive inspiration to me. He used to do a lot of weightlifting. He could bench press 400 odd pounds, just like that, basically. And he got all of his trophies. He used to get in competitions and stuff, and he used to do judo and stuff like that. But it all come to a shuddering halt when he ripped his rotator cuff in his left arm. Mm-hmm. And that's it. It all stopped.
That was the time to stop. Then.
His arm was just like that. It was just floppy, and it was horrible.
Did you attend any further education after school?
I lasted 6 weeks.
No, it's fine. It is what it is. So it's for some people and it is for others. Do you know what I mean?
I failed all my GCSEs, 5 E's, a G, and a U.
Yeah. And
I got a the U was actually in computer studies, right? And now, before my brain started sort of getting the better of me, I used to fix people's computers for them, you know, and I get a U in computer studies.
Funny that, isn't it? Quite ironic that, isn't it? I got a U in maths. I was awful at maths. English, funnily enough, like English and talking the talk, and I was amazing at, you know, double A's, and you know, and that's kind of what I feel is my niche today, because I can do these podcasts and I can write my magazine articles, but maths is a massive failure for me. It even caught up with me in later life, because for me to apply for a job I needed basic maths. Yeah, it was crazy, mate. But maths has changed now, bro. Like, you know, looking at my daughter's homework, and when I tried, because I've tried taking it since leaving school, and again, I failed it again. And like, back in the day, it was just like algebra. Now it's like Johnny goes to the shops, he's got this much petrol, he does these many stops, can you work out blah 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 blah. So you almost have to work out the scenario before you actually work out the actual equation. It's crazy. It's cool. Mad. I was a school governor for 10 years, and the things they get taught in maths nowadays, who uses algebra nowadays? Who uses trigonometry? Who uses long division? I remember that
fractions.
In my exams, they'd say, what was the teacher that she used to walk past me and she'd knock her finger on the desk with her big long nails, tap 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 tap, and she'd look at me and she'd go, "You need to learn this because you won't be carrying a calculator around with you when you're older." Well, bro, I'm just holding up a mobile phone here to Payney. Do you know what I mean? Not only am I holding a calculator, I'm also holding the bloody
Your diary.
a language converter, a diary, everything you could possibly think of. So, jokes on you there, missus.
I mean, I did try further education. I managed to get a place on a sound engineering course at Burton College, which is sort of like 15 mile away from where I used to live. But I lasted 6 weeks. Outside Burton College, there is a big memorial that all the students used to sit on and smoke their Marlboro fags and stink the place out. And I was one of them. You sit on a memorial, have my lunch, smoke a Marlboro, because that was the in thing to smoke at college. And this argument started kicking off about 10 or 15 feet away from me, and I watched this lad smack this girl round the face. But he had remember the old St. Christopher rings?
Oh God, yeah.
Right,
the sovereigns.
Yeah, the sovereign rings, that's it, yeah. He turned that round to there and slapped this girl up round the face, blood streaming down her face.
Awful.
And I thought, nah, I'm not having this. So I sort of got out of his line of sight. I ran up behind him, right, jumped up in the air and donkey punched him in the back of the head. He hit the floor like a sack of crap. But then, unbeknownst to me, a little bit further over there was all of his brethrens. And they
so you was having it then, was you?
Yeah, they one ended up being 7. And I ended up running from the college to the train station at full pelt as fast as I could to get out of Tamworth, because they were coming for me.
Jeez.
And they would have made a mess of me.
Yeah.
I've never ran so quick in my
when
life.
I spoke to you before the podcast, and you mentioned about, what I like to do is, with a few particular people, I like to ask you to write a few notes, because the last thing I would like you to do, Payney, is come away from this podcast and go, shit, I should have mentioned that. So you mentioned a few different things, and one of the things that you kind of related upper school with, I'm guessing it would be further education, was Palace FM. Now, can you give me a little insight into
right? Okay.
Tell me more about Palace FM.
Palace FM. Well, first of all, I'm going to say thank you to one special lady, and that is Pam Pierce.
Big up, Pam.
She'll be tagged in this podcast. So, Pam Pierce, love you loads, darling. Back in the 90s, Tamworth was sort of like a hub for sort of mobile DJs. There was loads of them in Tamworth, absolutely loads of them. And we got together we got together, and a group of us, we tried to get the funding together to get licensing to actually broadcast, because it was already an established hospital radio station, but we wanted to take it one step further. We wanted Tamworth to have its own radio station, and we, through countless funding, appearing at fetes, blanket collecting, coins shaking, tugs, this, that and the other, we managed to get the licensing money together. And it was headed up by who I call he is my mentor. He was my life at that time. Unfortunately, he passed away a few years ago, and that broke me to bits. Paul Pierce, him and his wife. I first met them when I was 8 years old at primary school, because they used to do the school discos. Right, so I knew them from them. And Palace FM got its first licence, I think, in about 92, 93. I was 13, 14 years old. And, of course, I was all over it. I wanted it. I wanted a part of it. I'd already had that taste of DJing anyway. But I wanted to take it up a notch, challenge myself. And, it all worked out, and we got the licensing. We went live, and I was the third person to ever speak on that station.
Nice.
Because I wanted to be at the front of everything. I wanted the front of the queue of everything. I wanted the breakfast show. I wanted the drive time show. I wanted the overnight slot. I wanted to do the lot. And it was an experience because I met a lot of people through that. Some good, some bad. And I used to do what they used to call drive shows for other people. They would be like where I'm sitting, and I'd be where you're sitting with all the controls and stuff like that, or count them in off songs and be a producer basically.
Yeah.
And it was that led on to me having more of a well-known figure. And I can always remember one night I was driving a show for somebody, and it was the news, weather, it was all an automated system, and you used to get like a 7-minute break at the top of every hour. And I could hear this noise by the toilets in there, and this little girl, I found out that it was this little girl. She can't have been more than 7 or 8 years old, and all of our pictures were plastered in the foyer of the old cinema in Tamworth, and she seen me, and she went crazy, like she'd met Michael Jackson. She went absolutely mental.
Hopefully not.
And, she'd seen my face on the wall and she'd, oh my God, it's you, it's you.
Let's not go with the relevance of Michael Jackson.
Well, yeah, this is, all right,
I get what you're saying though, bro.
And she asked me to sign an autograph. Can you sign an autograph for me? I thought, what can I sign it on?
It's lovely, isn't it?
And I ended up ripping my picture off the wall and I signed the back of it. And this little girl's face, I made her so happy. And it's moments like that that make it all worthwhile.
That's what it's all about,
There was
isn't it?
no money in hospital radio.
Yeah.
There was no money in Palace FM. It was all voluntary because the fees that the Department for DTI used to charge stations, it was horrific.
And this is why, they wonder back in the day why there were so many pirates, man. Because the DTI fees are nuts.
We had to do 4 30-day transmissions over the course of 3 years. They give us 3 years to do 4 of these 30 days, and we managed to do it in I think 2. Through funding, and eventually they got the full-time licence, but I'd moved on by then because it got took over sort of a little bit by a guy called Simon, who ended up insulting me to one point one night where I felt like ripping him across the turntables, and he really nasty piece of work. And I had to move on,
of course,
because I didn't want to be around people like that. I just didn't want any part of it by then. And eventually it went from Palace FM to Centre FM. All of a sudden they decided to change the name, and then Centre FM went for years and years and years, and then it was brought out by the Touch Radio Group, who eventually wound it up, and it's no longer there no more. It's just a memory now.
Yeah.
The building's still there, and every time I go past it, I always, the little side entrance we used to go down, and every time I walk past it, I thought, I miss that
nice
place.
Nostalgic memories though.
Oh yeah.
And they're the foundations for what effectively became a standard way of your life, as you got older, I suppose.
Yeah.
Now, moving on from that then, we're going to talk a little bit about, the rave music in general, but what kind of music was you into before you discovered any form of rave music?
Right. My very first song that I sort of fell in love with, and I used to play constantly on repeat because I just love Jackie Wilson, Reet Petite.
Okay.
right? And I used to blast the hell out of it on a little tiny twin cassette radio thing, right? And one year, Christmas Eve one night, I could hear my mum and dad playing chart music, and you know, New Kids on the Block was coming from downstairs. I'm like, what? My mum and dad like country music and stuff like that. And it turns out Christmas Day, I come downstairs, and my mum and dad, they brought me and my brother like a toy sort of set of decks and the top 10 records of the time to play on them, and it was the best thing since sliced bread. I thought I was Carl Cox by the age of 10.
So moving on to a very important era of your life, which was the birth of the alias name Payney. Now, I'm interested to know from you, what was your first introduction to rave music? Now, I'm not talking about attending the raves. I'm talking about, you know, was there a particular mix that you listened to which changed your life, or a tape pack at the time?
Now, back when I was a kid, every summer holiday we used to have a scheme go on called the Space Scheme. It's like a big youth club. It's held at Belgrave School every year, and there was this guy there, one of the helpers, his name was Dave Powell, another name drop there, and he used to come in. I heard this amazing music coming out of his headphones, and I was like, what's that? You know, and this was like 1992, Fantasia, you know, Rat Pack with the Dons, and I heard this music and I thought, wow, this is incredible. This is just not chart music. Where does this music come from? And the first tape that I had was Rat Pack at One Step Beyond, 1992.
Nice.
And I wore that tape out. And when I used to go on holiday with my parents, I used to walk around with one pocket was full of batteries, the other pocket was full of tapes. The back pocket had me Walkman in, and until I started losing my hair, you could still see the band in the hair because I used to wear headphones so much. And I credit, you know, the birth of rave music to me. I can trace that back to Dave Powell, because I used to borrow tapes off him. I used to copy them. I used to go around his at lunchtime, and he'd play me the latest tape, and I'd, you know, record over that, mix with that one and stuff like that.
And I always say, like, with regards to, like, if you, because like you've said about the Rat Pack tape there, like, you know, if you've got a DJ that you can identify from all them years ago that, you know, has changed your life in some way, and I don't mean them directly changing your life, but, you know, a particular set that or mix that they did, if you are ever lucky to see them DJs again in your adulthood or on, you know, when you're on road, tell them, because, you know, I've spoke to big time DJs and they like nothing more, you know, speaking to MC Lively in the studio, you know, him saying, you know, Lee saying that having people come up to him and go, oh, you know, I was really poorly, and this track was played while I wasn't very well, and it made me, and he said, like, there's nothing better to hear them things, so I always say that, you know what I mean?
If I'd have met MC Lively, I'd have been like a giggling little schoolgirl. To me, they're the famous people in life, not the A-list celebrities in Hollywood.
Foundations, you know, bro. This is what I keep saying, you know, and
I had the chance when I worked for Global D&B, MC Lenny, amazing guy.
Old school Birmingham MC.
Oh, yeah, amazing guy. He liked what I did on Global D&B. He liked the voice, and he wanted me. He says, are you any good at doing interviews? I said, yeah, definitely. He says, well, do you want to do some interviews backstage at Starlight Judgment Day Part 2?
Nice.
And Part 1, happened in 1992, and I had all the tapes from that as well. And I was like, oh my God, I'm going to be part of
Please
Starlight.
tell me you did this.
And I did it. It was at the Custard Factory in Birmingham, and the first DJs I got to interview on that night were the Rat Pack.
Wow.
And I just fell to bits
Yeah.
in front of them. My heroes were standing in front of me. And I just, every question that I had in my, it just fell out my ears. It just,
Isn't it amazing? I know, isn't it amazing? Like, I often think this, like, you know, when I was 15, 16, I was like listening to like Hysteria tapes with Juice Man and, you know, and Shady and all that. And like, you know, yesterday I come off the phone to Juice Man to talk to him about doing a possible podcast, and you know, I'm not even talking to him as Juice Man. I'm talking to him as as Justin, just an average guy, you know. And it's mad because like, tell me if you'd have told my 16-year-old self that this would be happening, I would never have believed you.
I mean, luckily on that night as well at Starlight, I interviewed Mickey Finn, DJ SS, some of the guys in room 2, a guy called JT, who was part of the early part of Global D&B. Interviewed him, and one of the I interviewed Top Buzz on one of the tables. Mad P asked me if I had got a light because he'd just rolled something up, if you catch my drift, and he asked me for a light. I says, yeah, can I sit and talk to you and interview you? And he did. And Mad P, lovely bloke.
Amazing.
Jason K, lovely bloke. And they wanted me to get an MC, sort of a couple of MCs into the thing as well. But Spider on that night, MC Spider, he arrived really late, all flustered and annoyed because he was late and stuff like that. And he said, look, here's my number, give me a ring in the week and let's sort something out. And bless him, Spider, as popular as he is today, bless him, he kept his word, and I ended up having a 30-odd minute interview with him through a speakerphone, a little tiny mic I had like that at the time, sort of right by the speakerphone on my phone, picking it up over the phone. And he was a lovely guy. He kept to his word, and yeah, they give it all the hype on stage and stuff like that, but when they get off stage and they're backstage, they're just normal, ordinary people.
Yeah, you strip them of their alias and they are just standard people like me.
They're just, I mean, you just mentioned Juice Man. Right, 1 year I threw a party for an old friend of mine because I was his best man. I couldn't afford at the time here to give him a good stag do and get a proper fitted suit for his wedding. So I said, look, I can only afford the suit before the wedding. He says, but after your wedding, can we sort of make a club Payney up? And I'll get somebody special in. And I ended up getting Juice Man and Hooligan to come across for a remarkably good deal. I shall tell you about that off air. For a remarkably good deal, right? And I still feel their energy sort of in my man cave today. They stood there and MC'd in a sweltering bloody studio for 90 minutes.
Nice.
Right, Torchman was on the decks. Hello, Darren. And Juice and Hooligan were passing the mic between each other, and it was amazing.
Love that.
Hooligan appeared at 2 or 3 of Club Payneys, and I'll tell you what, Hooligan's
a legend, isn't he?
He's
Yeah,
that's it. Yeah, that's it.
Come on, big up Hooligan, man.
Yeah, he's a lovely guy.
He's a good guy. Good guy. So tell me, how did you? Obviously, I know you said about the toy turntables that your mum bought you, but how did you come to own your first set of proper turntables?
Right, my first set of decks were actually CD decks. My mum and dad weren't aware. I just turned 18, and I took a loan out with a stupidly high interest rate, not knowing what I was signing, to buy myself a mixer and a set of CD decks. And when my mum and dad found out, they hit the roof, especially when my dad read the contract that I'd signed, and he went, "Do you realise what you've signed here?
That you're paying for this mixer 10 times over?"
Yeah. I think the bill was £450, and I ended up paying something like 900 back. And he says, "Do you realise what you've done?" No.
We live and learn, bro.
And the first set of decks, they were CD decks. They're not like the CD decks of today. They were like the rack mount CD decks.
And did you pick up learning how to beat match and mix fairly easily, or was it something that took a lot of practice?
I was taught how to mix by a guy called Wicked Winston.
What a name.
Yeah, a lovely bloke.
What a name.
He did a song called... He did a drum and bass song once. I wish I could find it again, called Dreamtime. Right, and bless him, he's passed on now. And I learned to mix off him. He taught me the basics of how to beat match. And and when he heard me do 3 records, one after the other, and they were all good beat matches, he says, "That's all you need to know."
Nice.
He says, "The biggest thing you need to know now is your music." And I went, "What do you mean?" He says, "You need to learn your music.
Yeah.
You need to learn drop points, breakdowns, all that kind of stuff, when to mix a record. You know, use the 12-inch version instead of the radio edit, that kind of stuff, them types of basics." And I did. I used to go out, I used to buy all the CDs. I got a good deal going with the music shop in Tamworth. They used to sell me them at sort of like trade price. I used to go in there, spend 30 or 40 quid a week, and they'd knock like 15-20% off. And he said, "Just learn your music.
How did you find owning your first set of turntables? Did that change the approach in the way you sing DJing and music in general?"
Yes.
Yeah, broadened your horizons, right?
Broadened my horizons so much, because now, if I hear a song, if I find a song on Spotify, for example, I don't listen to it as a normal person. I listen to it as a DJ. Where's the drop?
Yeah.
How long is it? And why are drum and bass songs less than 3 minutes long nowadays?
They all are now.
There's nothing there for you to play
Payney,
with.
that is the new way, and it's either get with it or get gone, unfortunately.
Yeah,
that's just the way it is now.
Oh, sorry, I've just knocked one of your signs off.
Don't worry, it's all right.
I can't understand why they're 3 minutes long. I mean, Mosey, for example, late last year, maybe early this year, actually, he remixed Kashin Hide You, and it's a fantastic track. Proper vine swinging jungle
I've seen
record.
Kashin live, man. Yeah,
right, proper vine swinging jungle record, completely out of Moses' sort of thing. But it's 3 minutes long, and I'm thinking as a DJ, I'd play that all day long, but you'd have to get it on.
And almost get it off straight away.
And get it off more or less straight away.
It's all about this quick mixing now. This is the thing.
It's like Sly. I mean, I shouldn't really bring that guy's name up. Yeah, exactly. I know. But you know what he used to do? 32 bars and switch.
Yeah.
I don't like that style of mixing. I like to use the 12-inch part at the start and at the end. I like creating mixes, not just cut and switch, rewind, cut and switch. That's not me.
No, I get that. So progressing from owning your first set of turntables to attending your very first rave, do you recall what this rave was?
Yes.
Where it was?
Yes.
Come on then, bro. As in, you never forget your first, so come on.
Yeah. Club Kinetic.
Nice. That's a nice place to start,
Club
mate.
Kinetic, big up Errol.
That's where you cut your teeth, was it?
Yeah,
big up Errol, man.
Yeah, 1995. I'd just left school, and we tried our luck one night.
I was going to say, barely legal to even get in there then.
Yeah, barely legal. I mean, I've always looked older for my age. I had my 13th birthday in a nightclub. You know,
that says it all, doesn't it?
Says it all, really. And we got in, and it was one of their Stompy Brisk was on, and DJ Demand and stuff like that. And it was the first time I'd tried Class A's as well at the time, and it was over and done with before I know it. But I knew I'd been in there for like 7 hours, absolutely stomping the crap out of the place.
Yeah.
Right, and it was so, the vibe, the feeling, the energy in the room of, you know, when you've got a good MC on stage that's working with the DJ, you know, and not just dribbling all over a microphone and not knowing when to stop and let the music do the talking.
It was more hosting back in that era, wasn't it? Do you know what I mean? As opposed to like 32 bars one after another and double time, it was more hosting.
Yeah, and it was crazy. I've not actually been to that many raves. I think I've been to probably a dozen at the most.
See, my first rave was slamming vinyl at the Royal Bath and West Showground.
Oh, wow.
Shepton Mallet.
So Shepton Mallet. That was a bit of a drive, then.
Mate, it was a coach trip. So, there was a load of ravers. I booked the slamming... I bought the slamming vinyl ticket, barely 17 years old.
Yeah.
And then alongside that, I bought the coach trip, the coach ticket, and like it all combined as one. So, to get there... It took even longer, bro, because they had to do stops at Wolverhampton and stops here and stops there, and man, that was an experience to say the very least. So, what was the one thing that surprised you about the rave scene when you first got involved?
The energy, simply the energy of people coming together as one and enjoying what was in front of them. And
inclusive as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, the inclusivity. I mean. About 5 years ago, I went to the Roadmender in Northampton to go and watch Buckham.
Was that a random concept by any chance? Because they did a lot of the Roadmender.
No, it was a different promoter. It wasn't a random concept one, although I do get where you're coming from with that. And I had to talk to the promoter first and say, look, I'm in a wheelchair, I can't walk properly. Am I still going to be allowed to come? He says, yeah. If you're in a wheelchair, you come in free of charge. And I was like, well, okay, thank you very much. That's incredibly kind of you.
Very kind.
Right, and I thought to myself, when it started filling up, I'm going to stick out like a sore thumb here. I'm the only dude in here, and I'm sitting in a wheelchair. And the people that were there to see Buckham, they were the sort of older, 17-year-old scallywags. They were the older,
the more mature crowd.
Yeah, the more mature crowd. And I had this woman who had this like a shirt on saying, "Don't fuck with my chakras." I'll always remember it. And she come up to me, she says, "You all right? Do you need a drink? Do you need a hand? If you need a hand getting to the toilets, I'll barge everybody out the way," and stuff like that. And she held my hand and danced next to me all night long.
Love that.
And I didn't know her name. And at the end of the night, in a flash, she was gone.
I wonder where in the world she is now.
Yeah, I'd love to know, because I'd love to thank her. And that was the last rave I ever went to.
Love that, mate. I love that.
My heart says I'd love to go to a lineup like that, like this flyer, but my body says otherwise.
Of course, yeah, of course.
And I would pay as much as my head says, yeah, go out, go and enjoy yourself, go and be around people that know you, that love you, that appreciate you from what you've done on radio and that. But I know for a fact that I'm still going to be feeling the effects from it a week later.
Of course, yeah. You've got to listen to your body, bro. Do you know what I mean?
And I just... It's that puts me off every time.
I mean, the good thing is, the raves aren't the be-all and end-all of it. Yes, they're the finishing products to what we all aspire to do, but there's still a lot of, you can still be involved within the scene without actually going to raves, is what I'm kind of trying to say. Do you know what I mean? Like keeping in touch with me the way you do, and like, the podcasts and, little things like that. You can still be very much involved in the scene without heading to the raves. And that's quite a good thing nowadays. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Do you remember the first time you ever got booked to perform at a rave, and where was it?
Oh, wow. Okay.
Because me and you, our paths crossed at Tim Ryan's birthday bash.
Yeah, Tim Ryan's birthday
Big
bash.
up Tim, man. What a lovely guy.
That's
It's a pleasure to be a friend with Tim.
That's the night where I fell out with a lot of people.
Okay, we won't go into that.
I fell out with a lot of people on that night because I had... by that time, I was heavily relying on a stick, and...
I feel like you were back to back with someone else on that set.
I was, yeah. I can't remember. I think Bazza or something like that. Or anyway, I tried to get off the stage, and I couldn't get off the stage properly. And I asked a certain person if they could sort of like give me a strong arm to grab onto it so I can get off the stage. And he just laughed at me and walked off.
It's disgusting.
And if I was to tell you the name, no. If I was to tell you the name, you'd probably be quite surprised.
Right, okay.
But
what I'm trying to say is, that wasn't your first booking then, no?
No, I used to do, when the sort of... the scene split in sort of when Heart of Gold and all that happy hardcore slappy happy stuff come out. That was sort of the limit for me for hardcore. That was sort of the limit for me, and then I moved on to dance music. Then I used to play a lot of club music stuff, and I used to get booked in a lot of pubs that had like a 2 a.m. licence, and I'd be there with my friend Mel, God rest his soul, I miss you, brother, and we would do we used to go as a duo, and we would sort of do the sort of either the first set of the night or the last set of the night after the main attraction. I mean, I've appeared on flyers with Alex P, Brandon Block, when they used to come to places like Burton, Rugby, Utoxeter, places like that. I would be the supporting DJs, if you know what I mean.
Yep.
And I used to class them as like little mini raves. It's just not banging jungle. It's dance music.
Yeah, of course.
And I started my love for hard house then, and all things, the harder side of stuff. And the more that got popular when Tidy Records started, I used to play the sort of like the warm-up sort of hard house set. You never went to a gig if you were first on. You wouldn't throw every banger on possible because the promoter didn't want that, but want you to play the encouraging side of, oh, that sounds quite interesting, let's go in there and listen to it.
Yeah.
And they were my raves. The only PMX, Roy Carter, you remember him?
Of course, yeah.
He booked me for a few of his Liquid events. Obviously, Tim Ryan booked me for sort of like, I booked him for my birthday party. I can remember one night, I always threatened I was going to shine his head up,
polish it up.
And the night of my birthday bash when I got him booked, I did it in front of a crowd with a mic in my hand, cautious, Dale,
Junglist Don.
yeah, absolute Don. He always used to threaten he'd teabag me. He used to call me the teabag warrior. So I brought this box of exotic tea bags off the internet, and I threw these tea bags at him, and I got hold of Tim Ryan more or less in a headlock,
Shined him up,
sprayed Mr. Sheen on his head, and shined his head up.
There ain't many people that can say that they shined Tim Ryan's head up. So,
and do you know what? When I appeared on his CD event of his bash, I was eternally grateful for being sort of like CD1 of the bash, you know.
I was on your set for that.
Was you?
Honestly, yeah, that's the first pack with Tim Ryan that I'd had the pleasure of being on. And on that CD pack, if you put it on, there's me and an MC from Shrewsbury called Slimothy D.
Yeah,
and we both went back to back on your set on that pack.
Wow.
Yeah,
okay.
Did you know that?
No.
Yeah, honestly. I might have been dog shit back then as opposed to what I'm like now. But yeah, man, I hosted your set for that, bro. I'm on the pack with you.
Wow. Okay, all right. I honestly, my cognitive problems
it's fine, but yeah.
Wow, okay, but yeah, you know, I mean, when Tim Ryan turned up with a pack, don't get me wrong, I was eternally grateful for what he did, and he gave me the tape pack for sort of like cost price. And he turned up at my house one day, completely unannounced with a tape pack. And I opened the door, and I honestly thought a Mormon was standing in front of me, because he turned up in this sort of khaki brown suit with a weird brown tie on. And he looked like you know how Mormons used to dress. All he had missing was like the, hello, I'm this person from this church. And I had to step back and think, yeah, bloody hell, hello, Tim. It took me a second to realise who he was, because he was dressed in this suit and all clobbered up, and he was like in his work clothes sort of thing. And I've
got a lot of good memories with Tim. Like, you know, Tim took a chance with me and Monchi many years ago.
Right.
When Raiders of the Old School was doing their things, and like Tim used to do a lot of he used to do a lot of kitchen sessions, and I mean, like, he'd have so many artists crammed into his kitchen, bless him. And me and Monchi would travel up there, and there'd be like Cautious on the decks. There'd be Stevie Wonder, not the original Stevie Wonder, but the original DJ Stevie Wonder, man.
Yeah. I know him.
Mr. Turkey Teeth, I call him nowadays. But they'd turn up with, you know, when we'd have Hooligan, and it would just be amazing. And like, I've rolled with Tim ever since, and when me and Monchi are put on sets with Tim Ryan, you just know it's going to be fire. So, you know, big up Tim. I can't stress that enough.
Do you know how Raiders was started?
No.
It was started after an argument in Global D&B's chat room.
Oh, okay, right.
It spawned off from there. And yeah, all right, internet radio was the booming thing at the time. Anybody could buy a server, rent a broadcasting server for £20-30 a month at the time. You could host a website for more or less free. The chat room software was free and all that kind of stuff. And when Raiders started, Global D&B's audience went down by 50%, because basically 50% of the people went over there and they stayed there, and that was a massive blow to Global D&B.
Of course it was, yeah.
It was a huge blow. All of the listeners, the loyal listeners that we'd built up, that had tuned into my show, and, you know, Cautious, his show was mega busy. I think it was a Wednesday night he used to do his show. You know, we lost a lot, and Cautious was the last one to go because he stuck it out as long as he could.
Yeah.
You know, and Global D&B, it was. There's a lot of things that went on with Global D&B that I did not appreciate. Dutchy, who was the original guy, it was an idea. Global D&B was born over a cup of tea between Dutchy and MC Biggie, wherever he is now. I joined Global D&B at I think they were about 6 weeks into their broadcasting, and I just found them on a whim one night, just searching for somewhere new to play, because I'd had a little bit of experience on forum. There was some forums online years ago, Mersey style, Scouse MP3s, and they used to have a radio station attached to their forum, and I'd done a bit of sort of broadcasting on that. Nobody bloody listened, right, because I didn't play Scouse music, you know, and I was looking for a new home to play. I'd got all of my music, all my old school, right, and you know, I keep doing that, I'm so sorry. I sent them a demo. They listened to about 15 minutes of it and said, right, yeah, we want you. And I was over the moon.
Mm-hmm.
And when one night I'd found out that Majika was listening to me, and he loved it. And me and Majika, we had a bit of a falling out. It was a long time ago. He's moved on from then. He's not the man he was when I knew him. And he very much blessed me with a set at the National Drum and Bass Awards in 2010.
Nice.
And I played at Raveology's, I think it was his 7th birthday, in the old school room. On the flyer there's Rat Pack, Baby D, and my name underneath.
Nice.
Between the two, you know, and I've still got that flyer to this day. It's sun bleached to hell because it's up in my studio, but yeah, my name underneath the Rat Pack.
Love that. We played at one Raveology event, and that was Raveology's 5th birthday bash at the Custard Factory.
Yeah.
We were on with Nicky Black Market and Shady. So
I ended up covering, for some reason Ratty couldn't make it, and I ended up covering his set. Nobody knew who I was, and at that time I was using a controller, but it was a really primitive sort of controller, and it looked just like a toy. And I'd got this laptop as well, which was a educational laptop from RM Nimbus, right, with a multicoloured keyboard, right, and I pulled all this out in 2010. You got to admit, controllers, they're the be all and end all today.
Yep.
But back then they were new technology back then. Virtual DJ hooked up to it, and I pulled it out in front of Slipmat because it was Psy was just finishing when I turned up. Then it was Vibes, who, when I walked into the room and the first person I seen was him, I was, oh my God, Vibes, hello! I threw my arms around him, and he went, hello. I said, I'm here to, cover Ratty's set. And he went, right, yeah, have you done anything like this before? I said, no, it's the first time ever. I said, I am scared. And he went, just do your thing, bro. Just get up there and do your thing, and they'll love it. He says, have you got a set planned? I said, yeah. I said, I know what I'm going to play. Right, I know what I'm going to play. I know what sort of order I'm going to do it, and it's going to be a good set because I'd planned it. I'd made sure all the MP3s were loud enough to go through a club system. I planned it for about 2 weeks, looking at every individual MP3 and remastering them because they were sort of dodgy copies off the net. And it all worked. I plugged this Numark sound card into the back of the mixer and it fired up. The first track was Slipmat, Breaking Free, great record, 1994-ish, something like that. And it just so happens that Slipmat, when I pulled all this stuff out in front of Slipmat, he looked at me as if I was an alien. And he went, what are you doing, bro? And I said, this is my stuff. You're not using the decks? I said, there's my decks. And he went, they're decks. I said, yeah. And he went, oh, he says, do they work? I said, yeah.
Do they work?
He says, are you going to be able to fire this system up? I says, well, I'm just about to find out. Click. And it fired up. And I thought, oh my God, it's worked. And this instant rush had come over me. Instant endorphin rush. You know, I thought, right, let's get on with this. I had no MC, which I was happy about. Right, and I'd basically got every sort of anthem from 92 to 95. A lot of Ratty and Tango's stuff. As I was covering for Ratty, I thought it'd be, you know, show me respect by playing Tales of the Dark Side and all that.
A bit of SL2 and things like that.
Yeah, SL2. I think that may have been one of them. Yeah.
Yeah, man. So what do you think, is there anything different from your early DJ and raving days that you would do differently if you could have your time all over again?
Yeah, I'd have kept the drugs out of it.
Yeah, of course.
Now, I'm not afraid to admit, you know, like I said to you at the start, my mum and dad are going to hear this podcast, but when I was a kid, I had a horrendous drug problem. And it cost me a lot of opportunities. It cost me hundreds of pounds in gigs, because I'd turn up at these gigs and the promoter could see that I was absolutely off my tits, usually on amphetamine and ecstasy, and they'd just no, you're not coming anywhere near us, you're a liability. And I'd slowly sort of destroyed myself between 96 and 2000 when it all stopped.
So you think if you were going to do stuff differently, you'd be going into it with a much cleaner head, right? Because, yeah, I mean, although it's all part of... I mean, I'm teetotal. Like, I've never really been...
I am now as well.
Yeah, I've teetotal completely, and to be honest with you, and people think, you're an MC, you stay up till stupid hours doing these raves.
Yeah.
I've never touched Class A drugs. I've never had that period where I could say honestly, I can hand on my heart say I've never touched Class A drugs.
Good.
Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, I kind of don't relate to that, but I do see it being hand in hand in scenes, and there is nothing more irritating for me, and I'm not going to mention who, but there's been particular bookings where a certain MC has turned up and their eyes are rolling, and I'm thinking, this is business, like, this is a job for us. Like, I see these bookings as a job.
Yeah.
You wouldn't turn up to your 9 till 5 off your face, so why are you turning up to these events off your face?
Yeah, and that's exactly what happened to me.
And promoters look down on it, man.
Yeah, it's exactly what happened to me.
No, it's good that you can own that and you're holding your hands up for that.
I completely put my hand on my heart and I self-destroyed what I'd built up.
Yeah. No, it's fair enough, bro. That's fair enough.
You know, it all come to a screeching halt when one morning I woke up in Good Hope Hospital, wired up to this, that and the other, because I went out, I swallowed a load of these and I collapsed in a nightclub in Tamworth, and the next thing I knew, I woke up in Good Hope Hospital. I'd had my stomach pumped, I'd injected with all kinds of stuff to reverse the effects of the drugs, and all I wanted, it completely freaked me out, and all I wanted was my mum.
That's fair enough.
I wanted my mum.
Yeah, that's fair enough,
but
mate.
I was too ashamed to phone my mum and say, Mum, I'm in hospital, I've had a drug overdose, help. And I ended up walking home from Good Hope Hospital back to Tamworth, which is a good 15 mile. I walked home in complete shame of myself, of what I'd done to myself, you know, and I used to hide a lot from my mum and dad, but my dad found out because I was getting lazy, leaving sort of used wraps of speed under my bed, and my mum found them, and of course my dad knew exactly what it was, and my dad didn't talk to me for 6 weeks. I was living in a house, and my dad wouldn't acknowledge me.
Must have been mad tension there.
And it was horrible, and I felt so, looking back on it now, I just feel just nothing but shame, and that's when it stopped. And I was cold. I didn't seek any help. I just dropped it cold turkey. I told my dealer, I says, look, this has happened. I says, do not sell me any gear ever again. I says, this has got to stop. I says, I've ashamed myself and my family. I said, it's got to stop.
It's good that you were able to do that, mate.
Yeah, and luckily, when I was going through the cold turkey sort of sides, me and my dad, we were doing mobile DJing at the time. My dad was a country music DJ. If you remember when, years ago, the Mavericks come out, you know, Dance the Night Away, the line dancing craze. My dad was all over that. We performed at festivals, you know, in front of bands. A very famous person as well, who actually lives in Telford, a guy named Dave Sheriff, was like the master of the line dance record. He was the absolute master. He remixed anything and everything, and he was the guy. And not so long back, he appeared on Britain's Got Talent, and it's like, wow.
So he's the guy that you dropped me a message about.
Yeah,
and said,
Dave Sheriff.
Get him on the podcast.
He lives in Telford.
Yeah, I'll have to check that out, mate. I'll have to check
he
that
would.
out.
He will give you an interesting story.
Yeah. I'll have to chase that up. Now, we're going to revisit the scene, DJing, fairly soon, but you mentioned something to me, Payney, when I asked you to make a few notes on what you'd like to include in the podcast, and that was that you sadly lost both your granddad and your auntie all within a short space of 6 weeks. Firstly, let's start with, how old was you when that happened?
I was 11, 12 years old.
11 or 12, so still very young. Do you know what I mean? You're not taking this loss as an adult, you're taking this loss as a child. Yeah. Because I don't care what anyone says, that is still a child, isn't it?
I can remember exactly my brother come and found me and said, look, you've got, because I was out trying to pull a bird. That's what I was like. I used to go estate to estate, you know, trying to pull a bird, you know. And my brother come and found me, and he says, look, you've got to come home now. And I was like, oh, no, bugger off, you're only just trying to get him where I'm trying to pull. He's, no, you've got to get home now. And I thought, oh, okay, all right, am I in trouble? You know, what have I done? You know,
what have they found?
What's happened? And I knew my Auntie Joan. I knew she was ill. She had bone cancer. It started off as breast cancer, but then it spread to lymph nodes and all that kind of stuff. As it does,
unfortunately.
Yeah, it's horrendous. And found out that cancer had beaten her. And my granddad Alf, who I miss tremendously, you know, I wish my granddads, both granddads really, because my dad's dad, he died 4 days after I was born, which was horrendous. Apparently he held me in his arms. That's all I know. My Auntie Jonah died. She was in Bermuda. That's where she used to live. She'd met a pilot who's shown her the nicer side of life, and she ended up moving to Bermuda. And she was brought back home. And the funeral, it absolutely tore me to shreds. I'd never seen anything like it before. And when them curtains close at the end, that it absolutely tore me to bits.
I think that's some of the worst parts of it. I do.
It really, really made a mess of me. And then 6 weeks later, my granddad, who was suffering because obviously his eldest daughter.
This is what I was going to ask you. Was it his daughter then, right?
Yeah,
it wasn't two sides of the family.
No. This was on my mum's side.
So he lost his daughter and then he passed 6 weeks later.
6 weeks later,
That's awful,
he lay down on the sofa and never got back up again.
Yeah.
And my granddad Alf, who was a Labour Party man all of his life, a foreman, he used to work at Leyland Daff at Dribbz Lane in Birmingham. He was an amazing man. He was a carpenter, right? And he had this little shed at the bottom of his garden in Gowan Road in Allen Rock in Birmingham. And he used to be down there, and he'd make tables. He'd have all the equipment,
Very
all the
clever man.
Oh, amazing man. And I used to be fascinated by what he'd do to a piece of wood. You know, he'd turn a square piece of wood into something. He'd put it on this like a lathe, what it turned out to be a lathe, and we used to watch him. We used to just
transform these pieces of wood into
a lump of wood into a table.
Yeah. So how did you cope with the loss of losing your granddad and auntie within a matter of weeks?
Horrendous.
Yeah.
Horrendous. And I mean, even thinking back to it now, still
of course, yeah,
punches me in the heart. As a dad of two kids, I wish my kids, they know their nan and granddad, and their nan and Trouble. My dad, he's known as Trouble. I wish my kids could have met my granddad, because they knew my nan. My nan didn't pass on until about 8-9 years ago, and even then at my nan's funeral, because my mum didn't want me to go, I said, no, I just can't do that. And I wanted to go. I knew she was ill. I wanted to go and see her, but I just couldn't bring myself to do it, because my nan, she was a big lady. She was a big woman. And apparently at the end, she was just a bag of bones.
Yeah.
And I went up, I'll always remember it, I went up to her coffin at the funeral, because they didn't close the curtains on this one for some unknown reason. And I put my hand on top of the coffin and I apologised to my nan. I apologised for not going to see her. I also thanked her for being, I mean, in her later life, I think dementia may have been setting in a little bit, and she got a little bit overbearing, if you know what I mean. And it caught me up. And then, 18 months ago, I lost my sister, not blood sister, but
I think with being 12, 11, 12, 13, and having your grandparents and stuff, for me, as a 37, almost 38-year-old man, I don't have my grandparents no more. My nan died in her 50s. What a young age for a nan to die. She passed away in front of me. I was 9 years old, so that was the first time I'd ever seen death. And then my granddad, he passed away when I was a man. So I got to have a lot of time with him. He passed away in his 80s, so he had 30 odd years without his soulmate. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I seen my granddad in a totally different light, because I was a man and I could appreciate times, whereas you're right, mate, when I was 12, I didn't see the bigger picture that one day they wouldn't be here. So I did go, I won't really go and see him, he'll be alright though,
I completely agree with you.
It's a different mindset when you're a man as when you're a child, and you can't blame yourself for that. It's natural. There's kids out there now that they've got their grandparents and they don't see the bigger picture, that one day they can be gone. Do you know what I mean? And yeah, it's hard, man. It is hard. Now, you mentioned, I was going to ask you if you can recall one memory about your granddad and one memory about your auntie. Now, the fact that you've mentioned that, how he would make amazing things out of wood at this little shed in the bottom of his garden, that's a fantastic memory. Have you got a particular memory about your auntie? Oh,
yeah. One that immediately springs to mind is every so often, my auntie's only come back to England for a couple of weeks, see the family, blah, blah, blah. And the last time I seen her, she had a wig on. Because obviously she'd lost all of her hair. She had a wig on. And all of a sudden, she just took it off. And she was bald as a coot underneath. And that was what I knew. Cancer took your hair, takes the chemo, takes your hair away. But seeing that,
it was a shock, right?
It was a big shock, a big shock. And yeah, I'll always remember that. It was in my nan's front room. She had one of these typical Victorian houses that was thin, but it was long, right? And it was in their front room where all like the best china used to be in the cabinet and all that kind of stuff. And she just whipped it off. And it just shocked me.
Took you by surprise a little bit,
it took me by surprise. Yeah, that unfortunately was the last time I seen her alive.
Yeah. Was there any traditions or things that they both did that you especially hold on to now?
Oh, yeah. I mean, we used to go to my nan's Gowan Road in Allen Rock. We used to go every Saturday. And mine and my brother's job was to go and get lunch. So we always had to go, I'd be given a list and some money, and me and my brother always had to go to the chippy at Highfield Road, which was sort of like at the top of their estate. And I always used to get the lunch. Me and my brother used to come back with like bags of chips, fish and chips and all that kind of stuff. We always did that. We'd always guarantee a bag of chips at my nan's house on a Saturday. And yeah, that's one thing. There's probably lots more if I was to sit here and think about it, but
no, it's cool. That's a good enough one. Did losing them both in such a short time, did it affect the way that you viewed life or relationships in any way? I mean, again, I suppose you were still only 12.
Yeah, I was still only 12.
Yeah, looking at the bigger picture, you still don't realise this at that time.
To be honest, I can't really. I know. I can remember sitting in my mum and dad's front room when I used to live at Pullman Close, and I'd just burst into tears for no reason at all. Over my granddad and my auntie Joan.
Yeah, it gets hard,
then,
man.
I mean, that started my mum off then, and it'd be like, come on, let's pull ourselves together. And that, but
it does get hard, bro. But
it was
I'm gonna move away from that because, it's important to mention it because it can install values, and it's nice to kind of commend the people that they were as well. Do you know what I mean? So I think it's dead important to mention.
Anybody young that's listening to this, if you've got grandparents, treat them like they are the best thing in the world, because
they are. And
next day, you never know, they could be gone.
Bro, I always say this, and I'm going to go on like a broken record here, but if you are lucky to have your grandparents in your life, trust me, learn about their stories, take the time to sit with them and find out, because that is your roots, man. That's where you come from. Okay, your mom and dad made you, but the grandparents kept the line on, man. And learn about their stories, because I took the time with my granddad. My granddad was a miner, you see, so I took the time to sit with him and say, what age did you go down the pit, granddad? What what did you experience down there? And now he's passed on, and now I've got all these wonderful memories in my head that I can pass on to my kids because I took the time to do that. But I lost him as a man, so I was able to appreciate them times. If I'd have lost him at the same age I'd lost my nan, I probably wouldn't have sat and said, can I hear your story? Because at at that age, I wasn't really interested.
Yeah.
I was interested in other things.
Yeah, I mean, my kids, they treat my mum and dad like the world's
Good.
My wife's parents, they live in Herefordshire, so when we go and see them, it's a 130 odd mile round trip to go and see them. But I've always said to my wife when she moved up here, that if you want to go and see your parents, I would never stop you from
Go
going.
for it.
Just if you want to go and see them, just go.
Yeah, 100%.
We'll find the money, just go.
Yeah.
And they live down in Herefordshire, and they're two completely different sets of people. My father-in-law, my mother-in-law are the total opposite of my mum and
You
dad.
normally find that.
Yeah, they are the total opposite.
You normally find that.
I mean, my I'm going to have to read.
all right. Take your
Sorry, Mr. Editor. Sorry. My wife's dad was a traffic officer and an army man all of his life, so it got them army values. You know, I think his dad was in the army, and I think his brother was in the army as well. And he's a very he has his sort of old fart values. He's a cranky old fart, but he's my father-in-law. I love him to bits at the end of the day.
Of course, yes.
This is Mark Archer from Alternate, and you're listening to the Dribbz Talk podcast on Spotify and YouTube.
So, let's move on then. So, moving on from the rave scene, but still keeping to the DJing page.
Okay.
I'm aware that you DJ'd at the wedding of an ex-girlfriend. And this brought a whole load of disaster. Now, firstly, when you mentioned this, how did you come to agree to do this in the first place? And secondly, can you elaborate on the word disaster?
Oh, yeah. I could tell you another story about a wedding as well. I'll tell you two stories here. Right, the first one was Dostal Working Men's Club. Now, later on, I'm going to show you a video of what my setup was like, because there's a video on YouTube of, I think it might have actually been from that night, where I just recorded a shot of all of my lights and lasers going and stuff like that. And all I'd been given was, you know, I used to work, the secretary of Dostal Working Men's Club used to ring us up and say, look, we've got a wedding coming up in 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Can you come and do the entertainment? Yeah, fine, you know, we'd agree a price. And, we're setting up one night, and the bride walks in, all in a dress and stuff like that. And she goes, hello, Payney, what are you doing here? And I went, sorry, who are you? And she went, you don't remember me? I went, no, sorry, it's just, me and you had a relationship in our teens, and you buggered off after 6 weeks to my best friend.
Oh, shit.
Did I? And she went, yeah. It says, you really upset me, thinking back on it. It says, what are you doing here? I says, I'm doing the entertainment for tonight. And she went, oh. And I says, look, whatever happened between us obviously happened a long time ago. I'm sorry that I don't remember you. I says, but I'm here to do your entertainment. And she went, all right, fair enough. Okay, she got on with it, and I thought, oh Christ, this is automatically put a mood on the night. This is going to be one tough gig. And it was. Now, in the middle of our setup, there used to be a 4-foot by 4-foot board of the name of my disco and a contact number. It was the old school way of doing it.
Yeah.
And people, what I can remember, my mum was ill one night at home, and instead of people coming up to us and asking us for songs. I mean, I used to carry 2 flight cases full of music, everything. I used to carry everything from when the charts started back in 1953 onwards. I'd got the lot. And people were ringing my mum and dad's house number, which was the number on the board, and harassing my mum for a song. Oh, can you tell the DJ to turn it down? Oh, can you ask him to play this record? Can you ask him to play that record? Can you ask him to do this?
I bet she got pissed off with that, didn't she?
She ended up phoning my dad and said, look, what the bloody hell's going on? Why is everybody phoning me? She says, I'm trying to arrest it. I'm not well. You've got to get this to stop. They're harassing me. And my old man got it really odd, my old man. And he got on the mic and he verbally throttled the crowd. He says, if one more person in this room phones that fucking number on this board, the whole lot is going off and we're going home. And you won't stop us. You are ringing an ill woman. Leave her alone. And that was it. The bride was in tears. She was in tears because my old man, he went batshit.
Oh dear.
Right. Dear. And it completely ruined the night. It was just... I didn't speak on the mic for the rest of the night. I just went into autopilot mode because all I wanted to do was just get out of there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, and the bride, she ended up leaving in floods of tears because her wedding reception party was ruined.
Because they'd had a bollocking.
Because they'd had a bollocking, but they were taking the piss.
And rightly so, man, yeah.
They were taking crazy. The piss. And now there was another gig. Let me tell you, this one you've got to hear. I'm sorry, you've got to hear this one. Doing another gig, another wedding, the other side of Tamworth. And it turned up, and the bride and groom, they looked proper shady. And I thought, right. We used to carry an old policeman's truncheon in the back of my flight case, just in case, so it kicked off. And it turns out, the best man stood at the side of the dance floor. He instantly took a disliking to me for some reason, and stood at the side of the dance floor with his hands on a table, staring me out constantly. And it looked like he was like seconds away
ready
from
to go.
Throwing this table at us. And I says, Dad, look, we've got to sort this. What's he doing? Because my dad had clocked onto it as well. I was like, what's he doing? Now, we got hold of the bride. I said, look, you've got to sort him out. Whoever he is, what is he doing? It all kicked off. The groom and the best man started scrapping, which then got the head bridesmaid and the wife scrapping outside. Of course, the police were called, and it turns out the bloke that had got married had just been released from prison and was on licence. And it turns out that he was carted off in a meat wagon, because it was about a 12-person fight outside. We were told to pull your gear down and get out of the way. Don't go anywhere near the fight.
Jeez.
We've got to clear this out of the way first, and then you just go home. We'll make sure you get paid. This is from the police. And, the bride ended up going home with the best man. I caught him snogging at the end of the night.
Oh, God. The life of a road DJ, eh? Jeez, man.
But there's so many good parts to it as well.
Of course
there was a girl once, I did her 16th, her 18th, her 21st, and her wedding reception.
Lovely.
And when she was 18, it was down at Tamworth Football Club. And she liked this song by ELO, Mr. Blue Sky. And I'd got the extended sort of, the better version of it than the radio edit. And I dragged her out of the crowd, sat her on this chair, got all of her family round her, and they all sung Mr. Blue Sky.
Lovely.
So it was a lovely moment.
Yeah,
Fantastic
that's a good moment, isn't it? And that makes up for some of the negative.
And at the end of the night, she says, I've waited 2 years to do this. Come here. She grabbed hold of my shirt, pulled me in, and stuck her tongue down the back of my throat. Bloody hell. She went, oh, you're not gay, are you? I said, no. I said, I'm married. I'm a married man.
Oh, shit.
And she went, oh, shit, I'm ever so sorry. Oh, my God, what have I just done? I said, look, don't worry about it. Look, it's fine. But I had to go home on that night, wake my wife up.
And declare to her
that what had happened on that night
was out of your control, man.
She just grabbed hold of my shirt. She'd ripped 3 of the buttons off my shirt. Right, and my wife could see that it had been scrunched up like
Payney.
that. And she was like, what did you do? And I said, I pushed her away from her. I said, but she got a fucking tongue down her back of me throat in seconds.
Wow.
And she went, that's a bit different way of showing gratitude, isn't it? And I says, you're not angry with me, are you? I says, honestly, I pushed her away. I did. I pushed her away.
Crazy.
And she went, it's an in-the-moment thing.
Yeah.
But as a married man, I had to go.
Of course you did.
I had to go.
You did the right thing there, bro.
Yeah.
Now, this part of the podcast, I'm going to give you the opportunity to be as brief or as deep as you'd like to be here, Payney. But
okay.
I think it's important to touch on this, as this has quickly become a huge part of your life, and this particular topic is one of the main reasons why me and you connected again after so many years and have provided support to each other related to this, and that is the fact that you have more than one lifelong condition.
Yeah.
Can you give my listeners an idea of some of the lifelong conditions you have?
Okay. In 2016, I was diagnosed with upper lobe emphysema. As you can probably tell, my breathing is naturally heavy because my lungs are damaged. I had pneumonia, and it took away 33% of one of my lungs, in my left lung, and I suffer with it. If I'm honest, it's starting to get a bit worse. All my life, when I smashed my knees up when I was a kid, my knees never felt the same. They never felt the same. And when I had my forklift accident when I was 19, and that crushed me like a sponge in 3 separate places, for years I used to smoke a lot of cannabis, a lot of resin, a lot of flower. And obviously that, if you know what THC does to a body, it masks the pain away. And in 2016, I already knew about my lungs, and I immediately, as soon as the doctor said to me, God bless him, he's dead now, he says, if you don't pack up smoking now, you are not going to see 50 years old. And I'm 46 this year. He says, you've got to pack up. He says, you have burnt the top of your lungs. And he says, look, you've done a number on yourself at such a young age. You've got to make life-altering changes now. And he says, that means packing up smoking. He says, you smoke weed, don't you? Yeah. He says, you've got to stop it. And the next people that I see are my wife and kids, and I thought, shit, I've got to do it. And inside 3 weeks of packing up smoking weed, I just ground to a halt. My body just stopped working. The pain in my back, my shoulders, my knees, my neck, You know, I was crushed in 3 places with the forklift accident. I was a young man. I shouldn't have been. I wasn't licensed. It was cash in hand work. That's another story. And my mum come round one night because she'd phoned me up and she was concerned about how I sounded on the phone. And she'd come round completely turned up out of the blue. And she seen that I was literally just a mess on the sofa. And I couldn't move. I couldn't get up off the sofa to give my mum a hug. She tried holding my hand like that. And my hand just like that, just ow. Christ, is it there as well? And it scared my mum. It really scared her. And then the following day, they phoned me up and they said, right, find a private rheumatologist and get yourself looked at. Get a second opinion. We'll pay for it. Just get it done. So I ended up going to Bupa, and I actually seen the same rheumatologist that I seen in an NHS setting as well. She did private work, and lo and behold, it was her. And she says, "Look, what are you doing here?" I says, "Look, I just wanted to come here." And I said, "Not that I disrespect you and what you've told me over the years, because of the fibromyalgia side of me as well, which is a neurological fibrous tissue condition." I said, "Look, I want a private blood test, and I need to be checked." I says, "I think I've got arthritis." And I says, "I need to know. I hurt from head to foot. Painkillers, don't touch it." I says, I just... You know, I says, "I'm here with my mum and dad's credit card." I says, "Look, I need you to just do something." And I had a blood test, and my rheumatoid markers were 2,600, when the range should be usually very low, because it's an autoimmune condition.
Yeah. It's a condition that attacks itself, isn't it?
And my rheumatoid markers were 2,500 odd. I was riddled with the stuff. But then that answered a world of questions for me, because I knew what was wrong with me.
Of course.
And it is crippling me. It cripples every joint in my hands, my shoulders, my back, my knees, my feet. I actually have a condition in my feet as well called Morton's neuroma, which is hard bone tissue that touches on nerves in your feet, and it feels like some days that you're walking around with a broken foot. It's crazy, but then the next day it's gone. Yeah.
And this is the beauty of these conditions, isn't it? One minute you can be okay, and the next minute you can be absolutely crippled.
Yeah, and to be honest, you know, sitting here I'm starting to seize up a little bit now. I'm all right, don't worry. I'll stretch myself out afterwards. But yeah, it rules my life now.
Of course, yeah.
I can't walk any further than 20 feet without my lungs starting, getting out of breath. So I have an NHS wheelchair, which has been off the road for the last 7 weeks.
But as of today, tell them, Payney, tell them.
Yeah, as of today, I was going mental at this repair company until Monday of this week, when I found out that they were at the mercy of ordering stuff from NHS procurement services. And I thought, oh my God, I could be waiting forever. But literally 5 miles away from your house, just coming off the M54, they phone me up, right, and they say, "Hello, Mr. Payne, we've got your motors. Are you in on Monday?"
Come on.
Yes, I've got my mobility back.
To someone that doesn't deal with that, it's just like, oh yeah, okay, he's got his wheelchair fixed. But to you, you're like, this is such a valid resource that you need.
I would be lost without it.
Of course, bro.
I mean,
of course.
You've got to just a little side note, you've got a really quite nasty looking wasp in here.
He's a big old angry wasp, isn't he?
Yeah, he's a little bit.
You haven't got a phobia of wasps, like,
No.
I couldn't give a shit, mate.
No.
I am going to try and open that door, though.
Yeah.
So carry on, bro.
All right,
carry on.
editor, cut that bit out. But yeah, I mean, my wheelchair, I had to go through an assessment. It wasn't through, any sort of backhanders or anything. I went through the NHS assessment for getting one of these wheelchairs, and obviously I got one. And it has run for 10 years now without any sort of problems that I couldn't really sort out myself. But until the motors just went on me 7 or 8 weeks ago, just one motor just stopped working, and I ended up breaking a load of drainage outside my son's school because this one motor stopped working and it jerked off to the right, and I smashed all this like drainage thing to bits. And yeah, I've been sick. I mean, I borrowed my dad is also a heavily disabled man. He's completely smashed the lower half of his spine up, and he's worse than me. He walks around like he's crapped himself, and I'm sorry to say that, Dad, but you do. I managed to borrow his old mobility scooter, and I went out on it Monday, and it jolts and it steers this way and that way.
Yeah, it's not what you need,
and
is
the
it?
battery's terrible, and it's jolting my back. Oh God, I can't put up with this. Please hurry up.
So what are some challenges that you face that others might not understand about living with these conditions?
Breathing.
Yeah.
Simple things like breathing, walking upstairs.
Something that we do every single day, breathing.
I've got a stair lift in my house because I can't walk up the stairs properly.
No, I get that.
Not being able to grip a knife and fork properly because of the cognitive problems that I'm suffering with now.
Yep.
I am at a sort of accelerated risk of it turning into something nasty a little bit later on in life. I'm under a neuropsychologist at the moment to try and sort of help me manage my life a little, sort of show me a different way of thinking and, less stress on the brain and stuff like that.
This is what I want to ask you, sorry to interrupt you there, with regards to obviously, you saying about less stress on the brain and stuff, like, my kind of final question about, your disabilities in general would be, how do you stay positive or motivated despite the daily challenges that you face, Payney?
My wife and my kids,
they're worth their weight in gold, aren't they?
They're worth their weight in gold. As much as I butt heads with my daughter, we're like chalk and cheese, my daughter.
Nothing wrong with that, bro.
We butt heads over the stupidest things, and don't get me wrong, Bethany, I love you to bits, darling, you know that. And my son Stephen, he's autistic. He's 18. He's a big, lanky, great thing. He's 6'2", stubbly bloody man beard.
Grunts.
Yeah.
Is he in that stage?
Yeah, I'm sort of at the grunts.
Yeah, we
sort of stage. And the day, if I didn't have them, and if I didn't meet my wife when I met her, I probably would have been dead by now.
Yeah, well, they say things happen for a reason, bro. Do you know what I mean? They really do. Yeah, so...
Yeah, I probably would have been dead by now, because if I hadn't met my wife when I did, I was that far away from going back on the gear, because it was getting there. I mean, talking cold sweats.
Yeah.
All that kind
Well,
of...
thank God you did, mate, because, you can be sat here today and you can share your story.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's a big thing. Now... with these podcasts, Payney, I don't tend to follow a strict pattern, and I like to throw certain topics in all directions.
Yeah.
And my next topic, while I appreciate is super sensitive to you, Payney, there may be some of my listeners who may have experienced these same tragic circumstances, and that is losing your sister. Now, how did it feel to reconnect with your sister?
Right.
And how did this come about, the reconnection?
Now, I'm going to tell you about... a lady called Cheryl. she moved in to the flat above the geezer I used to get gear off. And one night I'd got a bottle of beer, and she come out because she'd moved into the flat where we knew the previous tenant, and she come out, and I just said hello to her, and we started talking, and she took this bottle of beer off me and sunk it in front of me, and I thought, you cheeky cow, but hello, who are you? You know, she was a big girl, don't get me wrong. Cheryl, biggest, she was 38 stone. She did have a problem with the weight. And it turned into one of the most amazing friendships.
Love that
I've ever had. There's never been another woman like her in my life.
Love that.
You know. And, you know, I used to go round. The first time I went round, I banged the crap out of a door at 10 o'clock at night. And I says, it's PC Payney from Tamworth Police Station. And she come down, and I went, surprise! As she opened the door. And she invited me in. She made me a cup of tea, and we sat there and we were talking. Next thing you know, it's 6 o'clock in the morning. Of course, I'm a little bit cag-eyed off the drugs at the time, so it didn't matter to me, but it was 6 o'clock in the morning. And it got... I introduced her to dance music because all she knew was Elvis Presley and the Beatles. That's all she was brought up on. And I introduced her to dance music, and at the time, trance music was making itself known in clubs. It was getting more and more popular. And I introduced her to that, and she loved it. And eventually I introduced her to amphetamine and ecstasy and stuff like that, and we used to end up having sessions around her house. But she also used to do other things for me. One of the things was, if I had a gig and I know I'd be playing vinyl, right, she used to, for me to have a proper feel on vinyl, I used to take the middle two fingers together, or them two fingers, just so I've got that proper feel on the top of the vinyl. And she used to help me massage her fingers and then sort of get them together so they're not crushing each other, but they're held together. And she used to help me sort my CD cases out and stuff like that. And people used to think that because we were so close, we were boyfriend and girlfriend and that, and we wasn't. It wasn't that kind of relationship. Within 6 months of me knowing her, I classed her as my sister. Mm-hmm. The sister that I never had.
Yeah.
And in my early 20s, I just got married, and we sort of started drifting apart. But I'd got wind that she was seeing a bloke who liked to throw his weight around a little bit. And, of course, I weren't having a bar of that. You weren't touching her. You lay a finger on her, and I'm going to come round with a bat. And it nearly happened one day. Right, a blazing argument with him over the phone, and she said in the background, Steve, leave me alone. You're causing more hassle than it's worth. And they were the last words she said to me for 15 years. Now, when I found out that I'd got problems with my cognitive function, I immediately thought of her, because she used to do more or less the same amount of gear as I used to do, which used to start on a Friday afternoon, and we'd always, on a Sunday, we'd always make sure that all of our gear was gone by 7 o'clock on a Sunday night, when Dave Pearce used to come on Radio 1 and do his Dance Anthems show. And yeah, we had a lot of fun. We had a horrendous amount of parties and stuff like that. We used to shovel drugs down a stupid amount. And yeah, when I found out that I got these cognitive problems, I was in my wheelchair at a place near to a house, and when I found out that, you know, I've got a cognitive problem that we're going to have to investigate to see that, I immediately thought of her, because I always thought, and until recently I've found out otherwise, I always thought that my memory issues and me smoking the amount of weed that I used to smoke and the amount of drugs, I thought, because it affects your brain, obviously, I thought that it was down to all the gear that I used to do as a kid. And I thought, if I'm suffering like this, is she going to be suffering? Mm-hmm. So after 15, 16 years of not talking to her, I just went and knocked on the door, not knowing if she still lived there or anything like that. And she opened the door, and she was, all the weight she'd got rid of. She was a slim woman. And I thought, bloody hell. You know, and she told me that, you know, she had to lose the weight, diabetes, all that kind of stuff. But I heard she was coughing and spluttering at the door, and you could hear it rattling her chest to bits. And then I told her why I come and knocked, and she was shocked, but also immensely thankful that the first person I thought of was her, because of what we used to shovel down our throats. And she was quite taken by that. And I says, look, I'm sorry I've not been here. I says, but look how it all ended. You know, yes, it's been 15, 16 years. I'm sorry. I says, you can tell me to piss off if you want, and I'll go. I'll understand. You know, a lot of time has passed. And she went, no. She went, no. She says, I want you to come up, and, you know, I want us to sit down and, you know, just talk. But I couldn't, because I was in my wheelchair, and she lived in a first floor flat, and right. I couldn't park it anywhere. But then a couple of weeks later, I tried to arrange to go and see her, and she was in hospital. And okay, why? You know, breathing difficulties. Okay, I can understand that. You know, I heard your chest. And she says, Steve, I've got stage 4 lung cancer. I've got about 6 months to live. And that broke me again. It broke me to bits. And I just felt helpless. I felt like I'd betrayed her because I'd not been there. Because, you know, she took her first. We had so many memories. I took her to, and when she was at her biggest, she never wanted to go to a nightclub because she thought people would take the piss out of her size. Right, I said, no, you're not going to do that. I said, you're going to come to me to the refinery in Burton. I said, you're going to come to our hard house night. And I said, you are going to dance your tits off. Right, and she danced all night long, despite her size. Some of the women thought, well, yeah, more power to you, girl.
Come on. Yeah, exactly.
Get it, you know, good girl, well done.
Yeah.
Because she was dancing in front of the speaker wall all night.
Yeah. Why not? Why not? Bless her.
And she says, I've got around about 6 months to live. And it broke me. And I says, we're going to have one last session. I says, I'm not talking fet, pills, anything. I says, one last sesh, we'll have a smoke. You know, we're going to do it on your birthday. And it never happened. It never happened because before I knew it, the last time I seen her, she was in hospital. She wasn't allowed out. It's the day before Christmas Eve, and I went and found her at the cancer ward at Good Hope Hospital, and she had lost even more weight. Her skin had gone grey. She was losing her hair, and she was in this bed, and she showed me a chest, because lung cancer, and I have never seen bruising like it. Her chest was, it was purple, it was, the size of the mark, it was, oh God, just thinking about it now. And I seen her, and I spent 3 hours with her, and I cried my eyes out for 3 hours, apologising for not being there, apologising for not interfering more in this relationship, to which she told me that, yeah, he was kicking the shit out of her. I was right. And that was the last time I seen her alive. And she said to me, she says, this is probably it, Steve. This is probably the last time you're going to see me. And she was right. And when I drove out of there on my wheelchair, I looked back. I said the word. I just mouthed the word, I love you. And I drove out of there, and that was the last day I had off her, day before Christmas Eve. And I was trying to do a radio show on the day before New Year's Eve, which was a Saturday. And I just got on my decks, and I knew something had happened. My body, my mind was telling me something's happened. She's gone.
Yeah, he just wasn't the same.
I felt it around roughly the time she'd gone. It was like, mentally I felt this change in me just, 40 minutes into the show. And I rang the hospital, and she died 10 minutes previous to me.
How strange is that? You felt something
10 minutes before.
How strange is that?
It just proved that we were like that.
Connected, bro. That's the thing, isn't it?
We were connected.
So when she went, little piece of you went as well. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I get that. I'm fully with you that, and I believe that.
All I've got of her now is the memorial book that they give out at the funerals. Mm-hmm. It's taped up at the top of my CD racks. Behind that CD racks is the trance music that she used to love. The best trance albums that I've got are behind that CD rack. And the funeral, she says, you'll remember me. I seen her the day before Christmas Eve. She died the day before New Year's Eve. And the burial, cremation, was the day before my dad's birthday.
Right.
I'm always going to remember that.
Of course you are.
I'm always going to remember that.
Of course you are. And you say...
Right, and she said, in part of the sort of eulogy in the hall, the vicar, the person that does the funeral, I don't know, I'm sorry, I don't know what they're called. It was in her eulogy that she was introduced, she was a Beatles and Elvis Presley fan until around about 1995 when she was introduced to trance music, and that just sliced me apart.
Because it was you that introduced her to trance music.
Because it was me that introduced it.
Rightly so.
And it was a dagger to the heart, and I just lost it. I just completely. My wife was with me now. My wife and Cheryl never used to really get on, but she knew that Cheryl was a big part of my life, and she understood. She was a big part of my life, despite their differences.
And you say, all you've got left is the trance and the card from the funeral, but bro, they're all materialistic things, like what you've got in your head from the memories that you shared with her. Yes, okay, there was a time you weren't there and you didn't speak, and okay, but all prior to that, the things that you can sit here and talk about, and that's the stuff that can never be took away from you, bro. No one can ever walk to you and take that away from you. You've got that until the day you go. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So to me, like
the week, just one final. I'm sorry for cutting across you.
It's all right.
A mix went out on my radio slot the Saturday after a funeral, which was a one-off set that I did, and it was labelled, and I've still got it, nobody else has got this, and it was called Goodbye Captain Codshit, because her nickname when we was on the sesh was Captain Codshit, because she used to chat waffle, and it was like a stuck record. And, oh my God, will you shut up about what you've told me about 37 times already in the last 10 minutes?
Bless her. What do you think that her death taught you about forgiveness and about relationships?
It taught me that
life's too short, innit?
Life's too short. Nobody's here forever. There is a lot of people that I would love to clear the air with, and I did. Since then, I've made peace with Warren B, who was a very popular DJ in Birmingham.
I remember Warren.
You remember Warren? Used to look like Jake out the Tweenies with his little pineapple hair.
I'm sure he did a bit with Cool FM and stuff, Warren.
Yeah, he called original Cool FM Midlands DJ.
I remember him.
And me and him used to butt heads so hard, and he was one of the people that I wanted to make peace with. And if there's anybody listening to this that knows me from the Global D&B era, and you don't like me because of what went on with Global D&B and how it ended and how I had to walk away, there is a lot of people I would like to make peace with. And if you hear this and you hear my voice, please get in touch, because I'm not the person I used to be back in them days.
We all grow and we all learn.
I'm an old man. I'm an old man. Yeah, all right, I'm only 46, but in DJing years, I'm an old man now.
Well, yeah. Like, we all grow, we all learn, we all evolve, mate. It's all part of the process. One more thing touching on, you class her as your sister, so, one more thing touching on her was there one thing that you'd like everyone to remember her for?
Her openness. She used to open her... I introduced her to a few of my friends, and her openness to open her flat up every weekend to 3 or 4 bloody speed freaks. We used to take turntables around there, and we used to clean up, take the gear down at the end.
Didn't abuse the place.
Didn't abuse the place, but she
bit of an open door policy, right?
Open door policy.
Love that.
One weekend we didn't take any gear and we just had to smoke, and it was a completely different weekend, and that was one thing I'd always remember, that perhaps we can have an alternative weekend, because all we'd done was smoke resin all weekend, and her openness, her stupid laugh, and the fact that she was a bit gobby as well. She was a bit of a gobby.
Nothing wrong with that, bro.
No, nothing wrong with that. But she did rub a few people the wrong way.
Yeah. So it would be wrong of me now to kind of draw this whole podcast to a close on such a, I'm not going to say a depressive, because a sensitive subject. So I'm going to swiftly move it on to my favourite part of the show now. And I hope that this uplifts you a little bit. Firstly, I want to say thank you so much for disclosing what you have disclosed, because I know it's personal to you, Payney. But it's, it's nice that you're commending the person she was, just like you commended your auntie and your granddad. And firstly, thank you so much for doing that.
Not a problem.
Honestly, it means a lot, and it means a lot to me that you're comfortable enough to do that.
In the 30, let me work this out, the 35 years, because I started Christmas Eve 1991 roadieing for a DJ. In the 35 years that I've had a microphone in front of me, minus a few gaps, I've never been interviewed by anybody. You are the only person that's interviewed me over the 35 years, and you will be the only person.
I appreciate that.
To do it. Because as a sign of respect to you, giving you the exclusivity, if you want to call it that.
It is that.
You've invited me into your home. You've got an amazing setup. I'm really jealous of this is a great little.
Don't be jealous, man. I haven't been given it by a silver spoon. Believe me, I've saved my ass up to get this.
Yeah, I can tell. But it's nice. I've had a long career. I class myself as in my twilight of the career now. I've probably got a few more years left in me, and they will only be doing my little radio show.
Yeah, what you would class, I guess, is like a winding down period.
Definitely.
Do you know what, mate? And I'll give you a little exclusive here, and it's an exclusive to my listeners, although I may have mentioned this once before. Like, people see Dribbz and they see me as active. Most weekends I'm performing here, performing there, doing Kavos. Bro, I've had this chat with my wife. I've only got a few more years left in this game.
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't want to be the next Shabba and the next Skibber, R.I.P. bless him.
Yeah,
I don't want to be the next Shabba. I'm just in my own lane. But I've lived this life now for 20-something years, and it's took its toll on my relationship.
Yeah.
Although me and Rebecca are amazing, we're fine. She's great. She's stood by me with everything. But, they've had to miss out on things. The kids have the late nights. The kids haven't had me as the 100% father that wakes up at a Sunday morning fresh as a daisy and good to go. I'm like, because I've been doing raves 4 till 6 in the morning Saturday.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So to me, my kids, probably like yourself, my kids aren't getting any younger. My eldest is 16 now. My youngest is 12, almost 13.
I can remember your youngest, the Driblets.
The Driblets, bro, man.
The Driblets.
They cringe when I say that, but I wish they'd roll with that,
I'd still remember that, seeing your eldest holding that sign up on social media.
My dad's EP is out now. Come and buy it.
The Driblets.
The Driblets, bro. They're not getting any younger now, and I want to be there every second of their, entirely, because, they're going to be adults before I know it, bro.
Yeah.
And what am I going to have? A load of memories in here of raves and some flyers in the drawer, or being there every moment for my kids? So a little exclusive is a couple more years and I'm going to be hanging up the mic for this drum and bass. I've achieved things that I could only dream of achieving.
If you've done everything you've ever dreamed,
I have.
It's exactly the same as me.
I've rubbed shoulders with people that I used to look up to as...
Yeah.
I feel like I don't need to give any more to this game now. I've built a platform for myself now, and people know of me, and I don't feel
there's one thing
too much now.
I would like to do.
What's that, bro? Maybe I can hope to try and make it possible. Come on.
And that's one last gig.
One last booking, right?
One last booking.
Okay.
One last crowd.
Okay.
Yeah, all right. I'm probably... I would probably have my Zimmer frame on stage. It'd look a bit, but I did a set called Sing Along a Jungle Rhythm, which by far is the best set I have ever recorded jungle wise. It's an amazing set. I have listened to it over and over and over again. It's gone round the world, and I would like to perform that set
nice
to a crowd, because I think they would lap it up.
Yeah, man. Well, let me see what Dribbz can do, because I've got a lot of links now. So
I don't want paying.
Yeah, okay.
I don't want paying. Yeah, all right. If you want to give me a bit of fuel money, whatever.
Yeah.
But I just want to feel, as I said, I'm in the twilight of this now. I just want to feel that energy off that crowd just once more.
Okay, all right. Let me see what Dribbz can do here.
Just once more.
I've got a few promoters that owe me a couple of favours, so leave that with me, bro, and maybe I'll be hosting it for you. Wouldn't that be cool?
I've played every style of music from, like I said, 40s Charleston at a 90th birthday party in a hotel in the middle of Coventry, all the way up to Gabba in my own house, and even my neighbours are saying, yeah, we love your music, but what the bloody hell was that for the last 3 hours? Hello to Carl and Louise, by the way.
Hey, pick up yourself. Leave that one with me. But I want to get into my favourite part of the show now. It's the end of the show.
Right.
Now, I don't plan you for these questions, Payney. They are quick fire questions.
Okay.
There is no wrong, there is no right. You can choose to pass, but I know you, Payney, you ain't going to pass these for shit. So, let's get into it. First question then. If you could have one superpower, Payney, what would you choose?
Superman. Flying. Because I have these weird dreams of me flying over.
Nice.
Just having this ability to fly and land. So, yeah, Superman.
Love that.
Flying.
I've never had that answer.
Yeah.
The most common answer I get is invincibility. Everyone says invincible.
No.
Everyone. Have you ever had a paranormal or an unexplained experience? Depends what you believe in, but either way, you may have had an experience that you just can't understand.
Do you know what? Yes.
Give me one in a nutshell, because I'm conscious of time here.
Okay, no problem. I moved in the house that I'm in now. We moved into that 15 years ago this year, and at the very start of when we lived there, our bedroom, before I had my hospital bed, the bed that me and my wife used to sleep in, my side. When I used to get into bed, I always used to be able to smell old ladies' perfume. And it turns out that the way I had the bed set up was the way the old lady that used to live there that died, and the man was left to just basically rot in his own filth. Because when we took that house on, it was in a mess. But yeah, lady, it doesn't happen now.
Okay.
It was only for the first sort of 6 months of us living there. I could smell just that whiff of sort of like granny's perfume, if you know what I mean.
I can relate to that, because I've been in my house for 13 years now.
Yeah.
And the couple before me, there was a lady that we took it on from, but her husband passed away, and he was a massive smoker. And me and Beck have been sat in the front room, and we're like, can you smell tobacco smoke?
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's really strong.
Yeah.
Where's that coming from?
Yeah.
And it's not burning, it's tobacco smoke.
Yeah.
And it was so strong in our front room, and it, whatever you believe, but who knows? Who knows, eh? That was an unexplainable one. Yeah. Anyway, if you had to eat one meal for the rest of your life, what would you choose?
Oh, do you know what? I
love me food.
I love my food as well, but I've also not got many teeth left.
Okay, all right.
Right, there is an ingredient in my arthritis medication that breaks enamel on teeth, and if you look, I've barely got any teeth left. Oh wow!
Are you a bit of a can opener now? Are you with them teeth, bro?
Yeah, I'm sort of. Yeah, a bit of a crackhead teeth.
Bless you.
Oh wow! What one last meal?
Yeah, man. Just not last meal. One meal that you would have to have for the rest of your life. See, I'd say steak. I'm a big fan of steak.
Oh yeah.
These veggies, they don't know what they're missing out on, man.
Yeah. A nice ribeye or a filet mignon or something like that.
Nice, mate. Yeah, we'll go with that.
As long as it's not mooing still when you touch it with a knife.
I ain't feeling none of that, mate. My wife has it where it's still mooing on the plate. Right, you know what I mean? None of that shit. Shit. If you had to choose one song that would be played each time you entered a room, for the rest of your life, every time you entered a room, ping, this song would play, what would it be?
William Orbit, Barber's Adagio for Strings.
Now, you didn't even have to think of that. I like that, because you didn't even have to
because
go...
I think that is one of the most greatest reworks of a classical record. William Orbit I think he's only ever done one or two trance songs. And Barber's, not the crappy Tiesto version.
No.
The original one.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
If you could choose to snoop through one person's private life, who would you choose? Could be anyone in the world.
Do you know what? And I didn't want to say this, but the government. Yeah, I know, massive.
But it would be nice to know what their plans and...
Yeah. I'd like to be a fly on the wall in number 10.
Okay. What's the most embarrassing fashion trends that you followed when you was younger?
Oh, tie-dye.
Now, mine was Rockports and football socks.
I was never...
I always thought I was the man.
Yeah, I mean, look at me now. I've got a Keith Haring top on and Del Boy trousers from Asda.
It's all good. No one's judging it, bro.
There is a reason why I wear such I am known a little bit for my loud trousers, and there is only one reason why I wear them. It's because people will see that before they see that I'm actually sitting in a wheelchair.
I like that.
And it's motorised.
I like that.
You know, I stand out a little bit, so it gives me that little bit of space.
I like that.
Because they're sort of distracted by what the bloody hell have you got on your legs. I have got, if I was to sort them out, probably 50 pairs of this type of,
Yeah, that's cool. Okay. Or if you could explore the ocean or space, which one would you choose?
Ooh, yeah, okay. As much as space would be interesting, because I do think that we're not alone in this world. But the ocean, I've always wanted to scuba dive around these reefs with all the pretty fishes.
Yeah. Monchi does a lot of that. He's a trained scuba diver instructor.
Yeah.
And he loves it.
I would love to do that.
stuff.
Swim around with all them fish and the oxygen tank and all the business.
Okay, what's the weirdest thing you've seen at a house party, Payney?
Right, I can probably...
I just need one, bro.
Yeah, that would actually probably be myself, because the first time I ever tried an ecstasy tablet, I was betted 20 quid that if I was going to do sort of like show myself, snort. If that's going to be your first pill, snort it. All right, grind it up then. Pestle and mortar job.
Bosh.
Right, and I did. And as I did it, right, the geezer that gave me the pill and the £20 afterwards, I farted right under his nose. Right under his nose. I ripped one out.
Come on, Payney. What's the most random gift that you've ever received?
It would probably be... random gift.
Yeah, or strange gift.
Oh, do you know, I used to invite DJs to my house. I've had DJ Fades at my house. My idol, DJ Sai, who I burst into tears when he pulled up outside my house. But I also booked a girl called Vinyl Vera one year. She's well known in London, one of Billy Bunter's friends and that. And I booked her for something different. And I've still got it today, but she brought me up this weird coaster she turned up, and God bless her, she played an amazing set, but when she turned up, she was smashed out of her head. I don't know whether she was pissed or on something, but she fell through my front door.
What was on this coaster?
It was like a printing of a record. And it was like, she just give me this coaster, and it's like, okay, thanks. The last coaster.
With no explanation, like, here you go, take that. Yeah, thanks for that. Oh, okay.
You know.
That's random, bro. That's random.
Okay,
I'll take that. Yeah. Payney, would you rather fight, listen to this one, would you rather fight 1 horse-sized duck or 100 duck-sized horses? You know, because everyone in their lifetime has to fight a horse-sized duck. It's just standard, like, especially on the Dribbz Talks, especially on the Dribbz Talks podcast. You have to think of all these consequences.
Say that question again.
Would you rather fight 1 horse-sized duck? So you picture a duck that's the size of a horse, or 100 little horses that are the size of ducks?
Do you know what? Neither, because if I ever seen a horse-sized duck or a duck-sized horse, I would probably be so gobsmacked to... Fucking hell, that's a horse that's the size of a duck.
So the last thing you think about is, I'm going to fight that fucker. You probably wouldn't, would you?
No, I probably wouldn't. No, I'd probably be more shocked and amazed.
Nice. I like that answer, because I've never had that answer.
Yeah.
I've never had the, I'm not going to fight it. I've had, I'll fight them. If they're the size of ducks, I'll just boot them left, right and centre. I've had that. No one's actually said, well, I'd rather fight a duck the size of a horse, because that just sounds mental.
No, I've only ever been in one fight in my life.
What's the most random or useless talent that you have, Payney?
Random or useless talent. Right, okay, yeah, I can answer this. My party trick before I had to pack up smoking is I could roll a joint the size of my forearm, right, and it would still be smokable.
Wow.
That was my party trick.
Okay, alright then. What's one sport that people enjoy that you just can't really get into and you think it's quite pointless?
Football.
Oh, get out of it, Payney.
Football.
Come on.
Can't stand football.
No?
No, can't stand it. I've ever been to one football match in my life, and that was Birmingham City versus some other team, and all I can remember was standing in a cold stadium and a bloke about 100 yards in the concrete stands to that way. He had this great big sort of Del Boy coat on, shouting at the footballers as if the footballers were listening to him.
I know, it's daft, isn't it? It's daft.
Yeah.
I love my football.
My Uncle Pete took me to that because I'd never been to a football match before, and I just... It's too much money, and I think a lot of them... It's all about the fame. It's all about the look. It's not about the actual art of kicking a football around.
It's crazy that these football... we've got nurses that struggle on the front line getting paid peanuts, whereas these footballers kick a bag of air around the field for 90 minutes and they get paid ridiculous.
We could do an entirely different podcast about that.
It's mad. Anyway. Mine, I've got 2. My first one is golf. I think it's absolutely pointless. I don't understand it.
Yeah, all right, okay.
My second one is F1. I really just don't understand F1. I can't understand...
Oh my God!
Payney loves F1.
Oh my God!
Payney loves F1.
Oh my God! I'm going to reach across the desk and slap you.
I don't like F1, bro.
What?
I don't like it. I'd sooner get a Scalextrics and have so much more fun.
Well, yeah, I can sort of understand that, but... I love F1, but I think Lewis Hamilton, I'm sorry to say this word, but I think Lewis Hamilton is a prick. And I'm sorry for the P, Mr. Editor, but I cannot stand Lewis Hamilton.
Okay, all right.
I don't like him. Okay. I don't like his God persona that he carries.
Payney, if you had to choose one language to instantly master, what would it be?
Something technical like Chinese or, some weird sort of long lost Chinese Mandarin-y type weirds.
Chinese is the most common answer I ever get. Okay, all right. And for my final question, which wraps up the whole podcast, and this is less fun-loving and more serious now, Payney, so get yourself in serious mode.
Okay.
What do you hope that my listeners take away from this podcast?
if you listen to my story and you've got this far in the podcast, first of all, I would like to say thank you. There is help out there. Yes, I know the NHS. If you listen to this and you've got health problems, yes, I know the NHS is in a mess. I completely agree with you. But if you have health problems that you are concerned about, if you've got the concern in your head, there is always some doctor somewhere that will take you on board and listen to you.
Yep. And if you're not happy with the first opinion, get a fucking second opinion.
Which is exactly what I did. You know, if you have mental health, if difficulties, one night I rang up a radio station and took the piss out of mental health and had half of Birmingham after me on Facebook. I completely regret saying that now, because I've been on antidepressants for 7-8 years now. Yeah, there is help out there. I know it's going to be a long wait to see somebody professional, but the help is there. Do not give up.
Mm-hmm. Sterling advice, mate. Yeah. Sterling advice. And I think
there is always somebody there that can help you.
Yeah, and it might be sat on waiting lists, but the waiting list, at least you've got the ball rolling. You're in a better position sat on a waiting list than not doing nothing at all.
I am prepared to sit on an NHS waiting list as long as I know at the end of the day I am on a list to see somebody that I need to see.
And what I will say to my listeners is, and I found this with getting my daughter diagnosed with the autism, you know, the waiting list was 2.5 years. Now, sometimes, and it shouldn't always be like this, but sometimes it's he who screams the loudest. And I made a point of every single Friday on the dot, dinner time, ringing that same number. Can you tell me where my daughter is in the list? Mr. Morris, I've already told you last week. She's this one. I know, but things aren't the best and I need to know. No worries, I'll be ringing again a week later.
I had the exact same thing.
And I did this until she got an appointment.
I had the exact same thing with my son, with his autism diagnosis. And when we took the phone call to say that, you know, it's their autism spectrum disorder, I burst into tears on the phone to the woman, and I apologised profusely
for being a pain in the arse,
for living up to my surname.
Payney, the pain in the arse.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So that's sterling advice. And what I would say as well, Payney, that my listeners, this just gives them an overall idea of yourself as a person and what you've been through in the past, which makes you who you are today. And I think that's dead important. Do you know what I mean? We all ride off these aliases, and some people don't actually know all the life, you know, the life experiences we've had to get to where we are today. And what I always say with these podcasts is, if it can help just one person, Payney, get the help, or think, you know what, I'm not alone in this, because
no, you're not.
You know, so-and-so's been through this on that last podcast that I listened to. That makes it all worthwhile, bro. That makes it all worthwhile. But anyway, finally, I just want to say thank you so much for sharing such sensitive, sensitive things that are personal to me, bro.
No, that's fine, mate. Thank you for asking. Thank you for listening.
I feel honoured that, you know, you chose my platform to do that.
Can I just plug one thing, though?
Of course you can.
Right. Soon I'm going to be back on air. My dance music show is called Beats, Bass and Bangers. Covers every genre of dance music. Saturday mornings, 10 a.m. till 1 p.m. GMT. If you want to listen to my previous work, it's hearthis.at/beats, bass and bangers.
Nice, mate. And I will get that
and
link.
all my work is on all my work is on there.
Brilliant. And I will get that link into the description of the YouTube video as well.
Brilliant, thank you.
But obviously this goes out on YouTube, Spotify and Amazon Music as well, so
I can't believe I'm going to be on Spotify.
Hey. But no, thank you so much, Payney.
No, thank you.
This has been absolutely amazing. So to my listeners, you've been locked into the Dribbz Talks podcast. Keep following me with this journey. Keep hitting the likes, the shares, mainly subscribing. I get so many people that hit the like on the video, but I kind of need you guys to go that little bit further and subscribe to the YouTube channel. It takes seconds, it's free to do, and then you will be first to be notified when I drop a new podcast. We're all trying to fight these algorithms, but you know what I mean? It's work in progress, but you have been locked into the Dribbz Talks podcast. Have a blessed week. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Dribbz Talks podcast. We're bringing it to you real, raw and uncut. A safe place where we can talk about anything and everything. So like, share and subscribe. but most importantly, keep it locked.
Everything's gonna be just fine, everything's gonna be okay. Just take one step at a time, that's what the leaflets say.